Well, it's spring cleanup week out here in my neighborhood, and I was just driving around and I found some goodies. Now, even though people aren't supposed to throw out electronics, people do. And I picked up a few things that will feature on the channel in the next couple of episodes. I picked up 3 CRT TVs, a Sony, a GE, and it's a tiny little, like a 9-inch TV, 10-inch TV with a built-in VCR. So we'll be looking at those in a few upcoming videos. But this one here, this one's a Pace HD DVR cable box. Now, this thing's junk, but what these have in them is they have a hard drive in them. And what I typically do with these units when I get them is I take the hard drive out and I format the hard drive for use with my computer. So I figured this video, that's what we'll do. We'll take this thing apart. I'll show you how to format these things, because they are usually in a non-standard format that is used by the cable box itself. So we got to open this thing up. Now these use a security bit. It's a Torx bit, but the screw itself, my camera will focus there, it has well, here's the bit. That's what the bit looks like. It's a Torx bit, but it's got a hole in it because the screws themselves have a pin in the middle. So you have to have this special security bit. Anyway, these bits are readily available. Picked one up at the local auto parts shop. And the reason they do that is because, well, they don't want people pulling the hard drives out of these things. And they don't want people tampering with them. This particular device here, this is a really old one. So I don't know how big the hard drive is going to be in this unit. Some of these units have a 500 gig hard drive, other ones have like a 360 or a 250. We'll find out when they get the top off it. But I've salvaged tons of hard drives from old cable boxes. A lot of them are 320s. But over the years I've salvaged probably, half a dozen or so drives. I quite often find these things this time of year on spring cleanup or just at the recycle center. When I go to drop stuff off after hours, quite often people drop things off after hours. They're not supposed to, but everybody does it. They go up there after the place is closed and drop stuff off. So I'll visit the recycle place at night and see what goodies are there. And sometimes I come across something like this. So this is going to go to the recycle place once I'm done with it. But here's the hard drive, and we'll just remove it. Again, it's going to use the same security bit screws to hold it in place. And it's just a standard serial ATA. And then they usually just have to take one screw out from the other side here, I think. Should be able to take one screw out and then it should push back. There we go. I can just slide it forward or slide it back, I should say, and tilt it and lift it out, and ta-da! I scored 160 gig hard drive. This is a smaller one. As I say, most of the time they range anywhere from 160 right up to a 500 gig. I was going to remove this other extension. Okay, let's format this thing. So I'm just going to use one of these cheap USB adapters. This is one that will actually do IDE and SATA, but what happened was the connector cable here broke, so it was always losing power. So I just wired it up to a SATA connector, and I don't use it for IDE anymore. So we'll just plug into the USB port I make sure that I've got my power switch turned off here before starting, because a good way to cook things is to plug it in when it's powered up. And I'll just plug my drive in, just like that, and now I can power it up. Now, providing that this drive is actually going to work, I should get notification on the computer that it has found new hardware. There we go. And we'll check this out and we'll see what actual format this hard drive is in. So some of these are formatted in Windows, most of them are not, so we'll find out what this is. I'm going to go down to my Start menu. I'm going to click on Start. We'll go over to Computer, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click on Manage. That's the left click, by the way, on Manage. And then I'm going to go over here to where it says Disk Management. I'm going to left click on Disk Management. And it's going to show me that here is the hard drive here. I'll just maximize this. So here's my OS system here. This is my boot disk. And it's got a recovery section, which is my D drive. I have a 1 terabyte secondary drive in here, which comes up as disk number 1. And here it is, disk number 2. And you can see it's got all these little small partitions in here that we don't want. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to delete all those partitions one at a time. So I click on it and I right click. And and then I click on Delete Volume, and yes. And I'm going to do this one at a time. Right click, Delete Volume, yes. Right click, Delete Volume, right click, Delete Volume, right click, Delete Volume, right click, Delete Volume. Okay, so now I've got unallocated space. Now I have to format the drive. So what we've got on here now is we've got 2 partitions that are unallocated and we've got 1 partition that's allocated. So what I need to do now is I need to go down to this allocated partition. I need to, right click on here, I'm going to delete this partition. Okay, now I've created 149 gigabytes of unallocated space. So I can go down here and I can right click and I'm going to say New Simple Volume, and now I can go through the wizard. New, next, and yes. And then it asks me, what format do I want to make the hard drive? Do I want it as an NTFS? I normally save mine as exFAT. And then just go down here and click on New Volume and click Finish. And now I have now created a new drive. It's my drive F. I can now close down my computer management, and as you can see, it shows up already as a new volume, drive F, and I look at it and there's nothing there. If I go and right click and I click on properties, it'll show up as 160 gigs free. I've now just recovered a hard drive that was formatted for an old cable box. The old cable box now goes back to the recycler, and I've now just got myself a new drive which I can drop into my little docking station, and I'll use that to put files. So this hard drive now will become one of my inventory, and I'll use it for storing my files. When I make these videos, after I shoot them on my camera, they're on an SD card, I copy them onto these hard drives, and then I can use them for editing. And once I've edited, I save all my material. I save the raw footage and I save the edited files, and I keep them on these removable drives. So whenever I get the opportunity to grab one of these things out of the recycle bin, I grab one and I get myself a hard drive. And as I say, generally anywhere from 160 to 500 gigs is what's in them. If you find an old cable box, that's how you can recover the drive. And even if it's formatted in another format like Linux, for example, you can still, same principle, just unallocate it and then you can format it. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.